Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all for appreciating me for my effort and subscribing my channel and sharing it to your near and dear ones. In my last class, I have talked about how to fly an instrument approach procedure. Today, I'll go a little deeper and we'll talk about a topic which is a very prevalent today. That is, as the winter is advancing, most of the airports where you're going to be operating will be affected with fog, and you will hardly see the runway and its lighting system. So in that case, the kind of operation what we do is a low visibility operations. This class for today will be the must know of the all-weather operations. Even if someone wakes you up in the middle of the night when you are asleep and asks you these questions, you should be able to answer these questions immediately, because all the rules which governs this low visibility operations are applicable when you are in the critical stage of the flight, where you are not allowed to refer any kind of documents. So therefore, you need to remember these. So it is that important, and at the end, I will be covering some of the changes in the regulations, recent changes in the regulations, which is applicable. So kindly watch till the end. So the low visibility operations consist of these many operations. So there is low visibility operations consists of one, low visibility taxi. I will talk a little more about the low visibility taxi here. As all of you are aware that maximum of the accidents or incidents under the low visibility operations happens when you are maneuvering on the ground. We cannot actually eliminate any accident or incident which happens on our profession. However, our endeavor should be to try to minimize these accidents or incidents which happens at every stage of the flight. So in order to minimize, some of the tips which may minimize the occurrence of these accidents or incidents on ground are familiarization with the airport layout. Where will you find it? You can find it onto the briefing folder in your Jefferson charts or any other chart which you are utilizing. So familiarization of the airport layout. Familiarization with airport layout. So along with this, you will come to know that the general orientation of any taxi track or any links which are used in the low visibility operations. So once you know this orientation, it is always a good airmanship for you to always cross-check with the compass heading whenever you are entering any link or any taxi track. This will ensure that you do not end up entering into the wrong taxi track or a link. Number two, that the taxi speed has to be slow. The recommendation of the taxi speed by most of the company is 10 knots. And the distance between the two aircraft, should be a minimum of 200 feet / 60 meters. And no startup during pushback. No single engine taxi Wherever in doubt, if feasible, stop, coordinate with the ATC, and if required, ask for the follow me. And be aware of the lightings onto the taxi track and the runway. Last but not the least, since it is a low visibility, I am blind almost. Then I need to open up my third eye. The third eye is nothing but your hearing ability. So monitor the RT and be aware of all the aircraft which are operating in that environment. RT, very important to improve the situational awareness. Other types of operations under low visibility operations are that, as we have mentioned, that is low visibility taxi, then low visibility takeoff, category 2 approach and landing, thereafter category 3 approach and landing. So these are the different types of operations we carry out under the low visibility conditions. Now let's move on to that thing which governs these entire operations. This entire operations is governed by what we call it as a minima. And what actually is this minima? Minima is described, under two things. That is, depends upon the height of the cloud. Sometimes it is referred to as a ceiling also. And the next thing is the visibility or RVR, that is the runway visual range. So what is the significance of this minima? So when you see a particular chart, like the way I explained onto my last class, that every chart will have a printed minima, in terms of RVR, depending upon the different categories of the aircraft and the different lighting system which are available on that particular runway. So for example, that minima printed is 1000 meters, for example. So that means to say that this is the minimum RVR for you to make an approach. So let me elaborate to that. So before establishing the final approach segment, so when do we say that we establish the final approach segment? On an ILS approach or on a precision approach, that is the final descent point. This is the intermediate, initial approach, intermediate approach, and after that you intercept the, for example, the glide path here at a particular distance, that is 6.2 DME. You intercept the glide path here. At this point, the exact height is given here, which you should be there, let's say 3270 feet. So that is at the distance of 6.2 DME on the ILS glide path, your aircraft should be at a height of 3270 feet. This particular point where you intercept this glide path, and you are checking your altimeter, that 3270 feet, this is the place what we call it as a final descent point. And in case of a non-precision approach, it is the final approach fix. It may be an NDB, low power NDB. It may be a particular distance. from a particular given radio navigational aid. So this is what we call it as the final approach fix. After crossing the final approach fix, you commence your descent. This point is known as the final approach fix, which is applicable for the non-precision approaches. So the significance of minima is that when we compare the actual weather which is there onto the aerodrome, okay, with that of minima which is printed for a precision approach and the non-precision approach, at all times your actual weather should be above that. So let me say it once again. Before establishing the final approach segment, if the actual weather goes below the prescribed minima, you are not allowed to continue these approaches. However, if after crossing these 2 points, there is the final descent point or the final approach fix for a precision and the non-precision respectively, after having crossed that, you are allowed to continue the approaches till the time you reach your minima. That minima is your dA or dH in case of a precision approach, that is decision altitude or decision height, or in case of a non-precision approach, it is MDA or MDH. You are allowed to continue your descent up to dA or the DH or MDA or MDH. At that point, a pilot is required to look out for the visual references. If you are able to establish the visual references, then you can continue the approach and land. And if you are not able to establish the visual references, then you need to carry out the misapproach procedure. The statement which I said just now, that is, before establishing the final approach segment, that is, before crossing the final descent point or a final approach fix, if the weather goes below the minima, you are not authorized to continue the approach. After having crossed these 2 points and established the final approach segment, then you are allowed to continue the descent up to your dA or DH, MDA or MDH. And at MDA, MDH or dA, DH, if you are able to establish the visual references, then you can continue and land. If not, carry out a misapproach procedure. This statement is what we call it as a approach ban policy. So that minima which I was talking about, which is published in your Jefferson chart or any other chart which you are using, depends upon the capability of the ground installations, including the approach lighting system, so the approach lighting system are categorized depending upon the length of the approach lighting system which is available, are categorized into full approach lighting system, intermediate approach lighting system, basic approach lighting system, and thereafter capability of the aircraft itself. Your aircraft may not be equipped with a category 3 system, then I cannot carry out a category 3 ILS approaches. And it also depends upon the company regulations and the crew qualification. As I talk about the crew qualification, at the end of this lecture, I will be talking about some recent changes as far as the qualification is concerned, which was published by the DGCA and with effect from December this year, that is 2020. 2025. So therefore kindly watch this video till the end so that you come to know about the recent changes in the all-weather operations. So now I was talking about the visual references you are required to see when you are at the minima. The visual references are these. That is the elements of the approach lighting system, the threshold as such, the threshold markings, threshold lights, threshold identification lights, the visual glide slope indicators, the touchdown or touchdown zone markings, touchdown zone lights, runway edge lights. This constitute the visual reference system. We'll talk about it as we discuss about different types of categories. So these are the how the approach lighting systems look like. Now we will continue talking about the operations. So before you carry out these kind of operations, that is low visibility operations, you must ensure that the following items should not be on MEL. That means to say that the following items should be serviceable in that aircraft. The number one, that is the wind screen wipers for both the captain as well as the co-pilot, wind screen heating, thrust reversers, anti-skid system, last but not the least, the pilot should be certified to operate for these low visibility operations. So as far as the certification is concerned, at the end of the class, I'll be covering about the recent changes in the regulations, which is governed by the DGCA for the pilots training and the qualification. So kindly bear with me and watch till the end of this video. So for those Indian pilots and those pilots will, and for those pilots who are operating in India, there is a recent revision which was effective from this December 2025 itself. So now let's talk about different types of operations and then the controlling minima. Is the visibility, as we said earlier that minima is decided by the visibility and the height of the cloud, as the visibility is reducing, the airport where the low visibility operations are going to be conducted, or for that matter, those airport which has got the facility to determine the RVR will start reporting RVR at 1500 meters. For those of you who are planning to make a note out of this, I request you to open a fresh page and draw this arrow slightly on the left side of the center line. This information which I am going to be writing is a must know when you operate under the low visibility conditions. Those information which are relevant to landing and which are general in nature, I am going to be writing on the right side of this arrow, and those information which are applicable for the takeoff, I am going to be writing on the left side of this arrow. So as I say, as the visibility is reducing at 1500 meters, those airport who has got the transmissometer will start reporting as an visibility also and the RVR also. For example, let's say that the visibility is 1200 meters, RVR may be 1400 meters. Likewise, he will report both the things. And for those airports which are going to conduct the low visibility operations, they will start an activity which is known as the safeguarding procedures. Primarily, the safeguarding procedures are those procedures which are going to protect the integrity of the ILS glide path and the ILS localizer signal. So what are they going to do? They are going to do a lot of procedures. Some of them maybe they will stop those the temporary work services which are being carried out in and around the maneuvering area. They will switch on those standby power supply for the ILS glide path as well as the localizer. They will check the runway lightings and make an arrangement for standby lighting system and so forth. So that primarily activity starts at 1200 meters of visibility. However, this may be different for different airports depending upon the lead-in time. For example, the airport is large enough where it takes more time, then thereafter it may be different. So at 1200 meters they will commence these safeguarding procedures, and after having safeguarding procedure, after having carried out all these activities, that airport will announce that the low visibility procedures, that is the LVP, is in force. This particular LVP enforcement may be at an RVR of 800 meters of RVR or 550 meters of RVR depending upon that particular aerodrome. Now I will show you one example of that. So in this particular example, this is airport Delhi, India. It is indexed at 10-1 Papa 1. So in airport briefing folder, in any type of chart which you are using it, it will have this particular page wherein the low visibility procedures are given here. For Delhi, it says that the LBP comes into operation when either touchdown zone, mid or NRVR is below 800 meters of RVR and a ceiling, that is the cloud ceiling, below 200 feet. Whereas if you see in Hong Kong, okay, that the low visibility procedures established for operations in a visibility of less than RVR of 550 meters or a cloud base of 200 feet. So therefore, depending upon that particular aerodrome which you are going to land, this announcement of this LVP is different. It may be either 800 meters of RVR or it may be 550 meters of RVR. So therefore, before you commence any kind of approach or when you are preparing for your descent, you must check this. Once the LVP is announced, it will be transmitted on RT, on the first contact, and also in the ATIS. So after the LVP is announced or enforced, the area around the airport is divided into two categories. One is the critical area, another is the sensitive area. So primarily, the critical area is that area around the airport where the movement of vehicles, including the aeroplane, is prohibited. So this will be normally in the very close vicinity of the particular antenna. Like for in this case, it is a localizer antenna. Localizer antenna is on the end of the runway, if this is the approach side, on the end of the runway 300 meters up. So any obstacle which is there in and around is going to compromise the integrity of the localizer signal. So therefore, all the movement in this area is prohibited. Whereas there will be a critical area for the glide path signal also. The glide path antenna is going to be there 300 meters up onto the runway where your instrument threshold is there. So any area which is at the close vicinity of this glide path antenna will be protected from any movement, that is vehicles including the aeroplane, so that the ILS signal is not compromised. And the sensitive area are those areas where the movement of vehicles including the aeroplane is controlled. So now let's have a look. There is the approach path and this is where the threshold is there. on a normal day, you would be holding here at the normal holding point, sort of the runway. But whereas on particular day when the low visibility operations are being carried out, there is a ILS holding point. So you cannot enter beyond this point. So therefore, these are some of the measures which are taken to protect the integrity of the ILS signals. So now coming back to what I was there, that is 800 meters or 550 meters, the LVP is in force. Now let's drop the visibility further, okay, to 550 meters of RVR. So now in this case, from a visibility of 800 meters or an RVR of 550 meters, the type of operations which I am going to be carrying out is a category 1 ILS approach and landing, for which the minimum requirement is that I should have 550 meters of RVR at the touchdown, and the mid as well as the end RVR is not mandatory. However, if it is reported, it has to be above 125 and the 125 meters. If reported, they becomes relevant. So now let's drop it to further down from here to 400 meters of RVR. From now onwards, the figures which I'm going to be talking about are all in RVR in meters. From 550 meters to 400 meters, the kind of operation which I'm going to be talking about is the non-LVTO. That is non-low visibility takeoff, provided if you satisfy two conditions. The first condition is the takeoff alternate, filed, and the second is LVP is in force. If the LVP is not in force, then you cannot carry out a non-LVTO. Let's move further from 400 to now come down to 300. This is relevant on the right side, that is landing. From 550 meters of RVR to 300 meters RVR, the kind of operation I can carry out is a category 2 approach and landing. So the minimum required is 300 mandatory, 125 again mandatory, 125 not mandatory. That means to say that if it is not reported, the end RVR is not reported, fine, I can continue the category 2 approaches. But however, if it is reported, it has to be above 125 meters. For example, if it is reported 300, 125, 100, reported 100, then I cannot carry out the category 2 approaches. So now, at times, depending upon your country, okay, this 300 may also be 350. Or in case if your airline is a new airline which does not have much experience in operation of category 2, your regulator may give initial clearance to operate category 2 operations when the touchdown zone is RVR of 350 meters. These are the specific cases, but generally it is 300, 125 and the 125 if reported becomes relevant. And the controlling RVR will be the least out of these three. So as we discussed earlier that at your DA or DH, you are supposed to establish the visual references. So therefore, in category 2, what are the visual references? The visual references which you are required to look out is 3 consecutive lights with 1 lateral element. So that means to say that, for example, if I say that I am looking out for the approach lighting, if I see the approach lighting system, then 3 consecutive approach lighting system and the 1 beret of that approach lighting system. If I am seeing the runway lights, center line lights, it should be 3 continuous consecutive center lines with the threshold lighting, that is in the lateral element. So it may be the threshold lighting and the runway edge lights, or a combination of all this, as I have already shown you. Okay. So now right down from 300 to the next, it will be 200 feet, 200 meters. Then in this side, I can carry out a low LVTO, low visibility takeoff. In order to carry out a low visibility takeoff, only the touchdown zone RVR is required till the time you reach 300 meters of RVR. But once the RVR drops below 200 meters, then thereafter all the three, that is touchdown, meet as well as the N RVR needs to be reported. That is to say that 3 RVR need to be reported. Done. So now the next is $175. In case if you are operating an aircraft which has been certified by the EASA or EASA rules, or 200 if you are operating an aircraft which has been certified by FAA, like the Boeings. Okay, the kind of operation what we do here is from right down below from 300 to this figure. It is category 3 alpha, or sometimes some regulators or some terminology may be category 3 fail passive. The category 3A approaches are those approaches where your DH may be less than 100 feet or no DH. But okay, now I think I missed out this one, category 2. Category 2 approaches are those, as I mentioned about the RVR already, but as far as DH is concerned, it has to be, DH has to be in between, the DH should be in between 200, okay, a DH of less than 200 feet, but not less than 100 feet. Whereas category 3 alpha is a no DH or a DH of less than 100 feet. So in case if you are carrying out this kind of approaches, the visual references which are required to be acquired at your DA or DH will be 1, 2, 3 consecutive lights. The difference between category 2 and the 3 alpha is that in the category 2, you are required to have 3 consecutive lights along with a lateral element of the lighting system. But whereas in the category 3 alpha, it is only 1, 2, 3 consecutive lights. There is no requirement for the lateral. Now let's come down further from 175. The next is 150 meters of RVR. I can carry out LVTO up to 150 meters of RVR, provide that the runway center line lighting spacing is 30 meters. Center line lighting spacing 150 meters. Now let's come down further. Next is 125 meters. I can carry out the LVTO if the center line light spacing is 15 meters. If the center line lighting is 30 meters, I can carry out LVTO up to 150 meters of RVR. But if the center line lighting is 15 meters, then I can continue the takeoff up to 125 meters. Now, if I drop it further, this is 75 meters for the EASA once again, like Airbus aircrafts, and the 50 meters FAA rules, like if you are on Boeings and all. Up to this meter of RVR, I can carry out, that is from right down from 175 up to this, I can carry out a category 3 Bravo. In case if you are carrying out this kind of approaches, then it is also known as, some of the company calls it as a fail operational. Then in case if you are carrying out these approaches, there is no requirement for the visual identification. That is why it is known as a fail operational. So now apart from this, you would have come across a word which is known as the alert height. Alert height, for example, for Airbus is 100 feet on radio altimeter. So what is the significance? Any failure which happens below this alert height, which does not impact the landing capability of the aircraft, then you can continue and the land, because the aircraft is capable of auto land. However, any failure which impacts the landing capability of that aircraft, okay, which you will normally find on your QRH, what are the list of the equipment. If any one of them fails, then you must go around. So when will it happen? Whenever it happens, it has that auto land warning light will come on. If the auto land warning light comes on, then you must carry out a misapproach procedure. Or the second condition for carrying out a misapproach procedure for a fail operational is that whenever you have a no flare condition, in that case also you will carry out a misapproach procedure. But however, the regulation also says that, okay, if auto land warning light comes on or a no flare condition comes up, if the pilot is able to establish the visual references and they can land safely, the pilot may decide to land. Apart from this height, you would have come across MABH, that is the minimum break-off height. The minimum break-off height is that height at which if you go around at or above this, there are no chances for your aircraft touching down onto the runway. So in the beginning, I told you that there are some rules which have been amended, especially for the Indian pilots by the DGCA. I will show you the changes here. So, in order to get the certification for the low visibility operations, the pilot must have a current CPL or higher license, and he should have a instrument rating. And the syllabus are that for certification of LVTO, the ground training which is required is 2 hours, whereas simulation training is 1 hour and simulator check of 1 hour. For category 2, it is 2 hours of ground training, 2 hours of simulator training and 1 hour of simulator check. For category 3, it is 2 hours of ground training, 1 hour of simulator training and 1 hour of simulator check. And if you combine both category 2 and 3, the ground training required is 3 hours, simulator training is 3 hours, followed by a simulator check of 1 hour. For those pilots who were already certified for category 2 and 3 operations and the LVTO operations, then the training requirements are that ground training of 1 hour, simulator training of 1 hour, and followed by a simulator check of 1 hour. For category 2, 2 hours of ground training, 1 hour of simulator training, followed by a simulator check of 1 hour. For category 3, it is 2 hours of ground training, followed by a 1 hour of simulator training, and then 1 hour of simulator check. As far as if you are combining both category 2 and 3 training, then ground studies is for 3 hours, 2 hours of simulator training and 1 hour of simulator check. So the recent change which I mentioned about is primarily on this particular page, wherein for a pilot in command certification, the number of hours required are 2,500 hours. And if you already have an authorization for category 2 and 3 operations, then you must add 100 meters to the minima which is prescribed till the time you complete 50 hours or 20 sectors on that particular type of aircraft which is earlier. And if you do not have any experience for the category 2 and 3, then this additional 100 meters should be added till the time you complete 100 hours or 40 sectors on that particular type. and you must have a night flying on that particular type, that is 100 hours. As far as the co-pilot is concerned, the total flying hours required is 500 hours, and if you have the previous experience or authorization for category 2 and the 3, then you must add 100 meters to the prescribed minima till the time you complete 50 hours or 20 sectors on that particular type, whichever is earlier. Or if you do not have the previous certification, then you must add these 100 meters till the time you complete 100 hours or 40 sectors on that particular type of the aircraft before you exercise the privilege of the PI of the co-pilot under the low visibility operations. With this, we will end today's class. My request to you all is kindly subscribe, like, and if you have any queries, you can give any comment, and if you want to appreciate me, you can give a comment on the channel, and do press the notification bell so that you get the latest update on my videos which I have uploaded. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy landings.